Let's talk about stats, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good stats and the bad stats that make me crazy. Let's talk about stats.
Or not. It's time for Dingers!
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats, what's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement, check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see, what's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head, please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers, ain't no minor league, this is major, yeah. Dingers, let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just Kate Cavelli that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out, we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. Tyler Childs joined again by Robbie Baseball from the murder room, sans sleeves this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Not for your viewing pleasure.
There's it. Get the other one on camera. There it is. There you go.
Oh man, that's way too much bicep-ish for the show here.
Well, you know, Ty, it's a hard knock life for us, and it's been very hot, and my body rejects whatever is going on in the atmosphere right now. So I've got some severe allergies. But today I was doing big work inside my house. All the damage that occurred over the winter when we had ice buildup, get up and under, all that, got it all fixed today. Floor's back down. Did the tile work, did some grout, put the laminate floor back in. Had to take out a railing, posts, all sorts of non-baseball things. So it was a big day. Happy to get to settle in tonight to some baseball. So how are you?
You know what? I kind of fighting similar allergies, so this will be interesting. I think I'm through them, and I'm not entirely sure they're not from the punch that I got last week, the vaccine. So we will see if that is just overhang, but I think we're good to go. Weather is what it is, and I suck at golf, so let's do something that helps us get back on track. A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle. Oh, squeaky.
Yeah, yours was good. So what one is it for you?
How about a Woodford?
How about a Woodford? Okay, there it is. And then tonight I am doing a Spearhead. I don't want to spill the beer on here.
Isn't that what happened to Barzell last week?
Barzell?
Yeah, Matthew Barzell. Didn't he get speared in the
Oh my gosh. Non-baseball related. Boom, that's a shot. This is a Kingston crafted pale ale. This bold hoppy West Coast pale ale is brewed Hawaiian style with pineapple. Okay. Could it, we get blamed for that with pizza. Now we're going to get blamed for that with our beer. It's unfiltered and dry hop to provide a delicate and complex flavor and bouquet. And I'm done. I'm not going to go on. It doesn't have the story.
Bouquet? Did you say a bouquet?
Well, like a bouquet. That's what you say, like with your flat or with your flavors, right?
If my beer has a bouquet in or around it, I'm out. Like I'm just straight out.
That's where you do like the American, like you pop it and you go bush.
Like, beer drinking and Midsummer Night Dreams should never collide.
No, I agree, but I wanted an unfiltered one, so I picked this guy up, and I'm going to try it out tonight. So it is what do we got on the alcohol percentage? 6%. That's what we're going for, right? Okay. It's got to hit me hard, just like the reality of losing my franchise player. But we'll get to magic.
Rough week for you, Robbie. Definitely out.
But let's go through. So tonight, Ty, we wanted to talk about a few good, fun baseball things. Obviously, we've got news and notes that we want to get to because we want to relate it to Dynasty, since our biggest gripe in the whole wide world is that everybody's playing redraft, and if everyone that is saying they are Dynasty would just think of things in a dynasty format, our world, our life would be good, and we could get buried and go away and nobody would care about us. But for those of you that listen, for those of you that care, we are talking dynasty. So everything that happens in MLB, news and noteworthy, we're taking the dynasty mind to it. We are not thinking in redraft terms. We're thinking what's going to happen with these players. We've also got injuries to go over, promotions, demotions, and then we have a fun thing that we're doing, which is low value starting lineups. So these are guys who are not thought highly of, are currently not thought highly of. We just got a question in, Ty. I don't know if you want to throw that one up there. Why are we wearing sunglasses? Because that is how bright the future is. And I also have this really bright light above me. That's why you can't see my cool Colorado Rocky thing. It's just really bright. It is sunny inside in Canada. I agree with that.
And
Red Shark, thank you for joining us.
And the question is, like, are you just like a randomly generated team in MLB The Show? You're the Red Sharks. Come on, bro.
Red Sharks 13. Yeah. So anyway, the last thing we will discuss tonight is the low value starting lineup, which we'll go through all positions and just discuss some guys that might be of use rest of season and beyond in Dynasty. Different reasons why you might be interested in them based on your Dynasty roster. So we can start off tonight, Ty, with Didi. This is some good news. Good news for me. I like my old man Didi. Started a AAA rehab, or should start one later this week. That's great. He's been out a lot longer than he was supposed to be, and I need him in 2 leagues very badly. Chris Davis DFA'd. As at the point in time in which we're recording, he has not been able to be traded or anything yet. Ty, do you think Khris Davis ends up on an MLB team again this year? I don't mean just takes a minor league contract. Do you think he gets on gets in at bat with another team this year?
I definitely think he's going to belong on an NL team. I think a team, like the Cubbies could potentially use the right-handed bat in the outfield. I think there's a couple teams that could use the extra depth. St. Louis maybe as well, but it fits a little bit too much into their right-handed power profile. So I don't think that would be necessarily the best fit. But yeah, I think he's going to end up somewhere in the NL. Like, I think his AL days are done, but I do think there's a spot for him coming off the bench to just swing for the yard.
That's I think that's probably the only shot he's got, is if he signs with the team and maybe accepts a AAA assignment for a period of time, because he has had 3 straight years of steady decline. And coming this year,
the other one, which will be a segue as well too, is Colorado, where he could try and hit 500-foot home runs for a team that's going to be decimated at the trade deadline.
And he played in the West for several years, so that schedule might not be unfriendly to him. But obviously AL, not NL. So that does move us on, well done, Ty, to a couple Colorado points. We've got the sad news that former 4th overall pick Riley Pint has retired at age 23. Thank you, Colorado Development, and our apologies to all of the Dynasty owners who for some reason may still own him. Ty, it was like recently that I said you shouldn't own him anymore, get rid of him, and you were like, I'd be open to trading for him. And I mean, this is unexpected news, so it's not like he's
pulling the Rob Gronkowski. Like, I feel like he's retiring for the sake of trying to get out of the organization.
Well, he does have, I think, $4.8 million was his signing bonus. So I think he has set himself up for life if he's done it properly. I mean, who knows how all those things happen with professional athletes and so forth. But there was definitely a comment that the door was left open for him to return. But I think he is at least the 4th one that I can think of, excuse me, with the other most prominent one being Roberto Ramos, who left Colorado to go to the KBO and then had a huge 2020 and signed up again to be in the KBO this season. And my plans for him are that he comes back next year, but he has not had the repeat performance I was hoping for. But we're going to wait. We're going to give him the season to get himself right instead of go ahead and just sink that ship. But that is, again, like I'm trying to think if there were three total first-round picks since 15 that are now done in pro ball that were all Rockies. And I mean, check RobbieBaseball.com if you want to know some things about how bad Colorado sucks at drafting, because that was really disappointing. Yeah, and developing. And winning. Both. Right. Like the roster will tell you one story, but the length of time in which they have not been competitive tells you their true story. But on the upside here, Ty, Sam Weatherly, a low A pitcher who was third round pick last year for Colorado, has 46 Ks in 26 and a third innings. So that's a nice thing to go with. Sam Weatherly, who I believe it was Reese, who was on with us in the offseason, thought he was more or less a RP type arm. And I mean, these numbers are great. It's at low A. So he's 22 years old. He could certainly move up and face some stiffer competition based on the numbers we see here. Danny Jansen is out with the Blue Jays, but that's injury related. And Riley Adams is in.
Well, let me ask this, Robbie. We were talking about it on Clubhouse the other night, talking about that Danny Jansen for Riley Adams. And I made the proclamation that I feel like Danny Jansen's days of being a starting catcher with the Toronto Blue Jays are done, barring injuries.
I agree. I haven't liked Danny Jansen for a couple of seasons now. And after coming up and being told about, had the laser eye surgery and this and that, I thought that was great. But his goal, I think, in coming up to be a Blue Jay was to be a really good catcher. And in doing that, he basically abandoned the offensive side of the ball, whereas Reese McGuire came up and in a very short cup of coffee in 19, took the offensive side, and then it was like, oh wow, they could be a really good 1-2. Like this could be, because Jansen's going to be better, and then Reese got caught playing with himself, and Jansen hasn't spent enough time hitting balls. He's been too busy catching them, and there's a good joke somewhere in there, but I'm not getting it.
Yeah,
it's not.
You're dancing around it. It's not great right now.
Sorry,
but I will say this: like I watched Riley Adams catch the other night, and he looked like he can do the defensive side and was a good receiver of the ball, which, I talk about a lot from catchers, because if they can't do that, then they're not going to stick on the offensive side anyway. So, I think that is the one thing people have, but you're talking about a guy that had a 4-digit OPS in the minor leagues, right? This season. So he hit a double in his first game off of dead center, turned it around off of, I think Carlos Rodon was still in the game. And, that's enough for me to at least pay attention. I think we're seeing the hype train around Gabriel Moreno, who's the next guy in the wings for Toronto.
Certainly right now, the Canadian media side is doing that, right? They're all about next man up, which is really crappy when you think about the current crop of MLB catchers in Toronto. And like, hey, we're just going to bypass you for the 21-year-old.
Well, and what I was going to say, though, is that I think this is very much the hype train for the sell purposes. Right. I think that's why it's getting hyped. I think that's an internal media, because for those of you that don't know, or we haven't paid attention because we talk about it every now and then, the Jays are owned by one of the largest media companies in Canada. So, they have some control over what is fed out. So I think this is one of those things, Robbie, and it just feels that way. Moreno's too small to be a major league catcher. He just doesn't have the body, very similar to what we've seen with like a Wilson Contreras, having very inconsistent outcomes because he's not a big frame. Talent doesn't mean he's not talented. Just, as a everyday catcher, kind of like small pitchers, like there's just a concern there. And so that's why I think they're going to move him. His value is through the roof right now. So if you can get a really good return for a catcher that's going to be, an okay major leaguer, I think you do it. So I think that's what's happening here.
Okay, well, that's fair, and we're going to need time to see that develop. But I'm happy to see Riley Adams is up. That's the thing for me, is when we get to see some guys come up and then they get a chance, especially when I own them in several leagues, and when I have a guy like Riley Adams in dynasty format where he can just stay in my minors until I'm ready. That's the thing I like. When I have Riley Adams and I now have to move him on to my 26-man roster, I'm not excited about that. And that's one of those reasons why with catchers, it can be a bit of a tricky situation where you really need to watch yourself. We all know how excited everybody was for Yerman Mercedes in April, but he was util only. Imagine if he didn't get that one at bat last year and he could have been a catcher. Like, his value would have been through the roof. So if Riley Adams can catch fire for a couple weeks, if you don't think he's the long-term solution in Toronto, or you don't think he's a long-term MLBer, maybe you can turn that over for some value long-term, because there are guys like Mike Zunino who get dropped in 24-team leagues. I also have dropped Zunino, I think 2 years ago I dropped him, and now he's looking decent. It's not decent MLB player, it's decent catcher in a deep fantasy league in Dynasty. On to somebody else who, highly thought of, didn't necessarily have the track record to prove what he got, but it's Scott Kingery, who got an MLB contract. He's now off the 40-man roster with the Phillies and down in AAA. He was DFA'd.
How did he get through waivers?
I think because the MLB contract, nobody wanted to be saddled with it.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
much like
Yeah,
Fulton
that's
Evans
fair.
last year, right? It was just it's a money crunch, and they would have had
Still
to keep
seems
him
like-
on the 40-man.
Still seems like somebody would have been looking for infield depth. It seems weird to me because that contract isn't cheap, but it's also not super expensive either.
Well, a team like Baltimore would be the type of team that'd be interested, but then they do their work in the offseason. They get a guy like Freddie Galvis for a couple mil, so they're not going to pick up Kingery in season and then have to deal with that. And I think that's what the Phillies did too, right? They were aware that he was more than likely going to come off. The issue is with a guy like Kingery, how do you get him back on unless he's tearing it up? So I'm hoping that he can go and make the right adjustments, because he's the type of guy who should now go back in, and the Phillies should say, okay, here's what we're going to do now. And when we had Ellen Adair on with us before, she talked about how they seemed to try different things with him and they screwed him up. So maybe now they'll try to right the ship and get him back up so he can become a major league player once again. Another guy, Keston Hiura. Holy smokes. Talk about the wheels falling off. Ty, you talked about it before. Without a major adjustment now, it looks like Keston Hiura is just falling into that Milwaukee roster fodder, can't make it happen, middle infield thing. Jared Kelenic has also fallen victim to it. It's almost like Jerry DiPoto was right when he talked about Kelenic needing to develop, and even I was joking
that a
about
major league GM knows what he's doing. What?
Yeah, and I mean, like, even I was joking early in the season about like, oh, it's player suppression, right? Like, of course, but it's proven to be true, and that's something that I think is important for everyone to keep in mind in Dynasty. Like, don't sell Kelenic now. Like, it's not worth it to you. He's up before he should have been. And I don't mean that in the sense that, 3 months ago, he should have been up. I mean, I didn't expect him to be up in 2021 back in 2019. Like, he was a 2022 guy when I first wrote about him. That's where I think he is when we first talked about him on the podcast. He was a 3-year away guy. He got up after 2 and change. Yeah, hold the door. Hold the door on Kelenic.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Now, if you're in a keeper league, if your format doesn't permit it in the sense that like you need to move bodies in that league, well, then that might be the only time. But you have to remember, this is Joe Adell last year, and we're about to talk about some minor league leaders, and Joe Adell's name is going to come up. So keep it in mind, right? Like, this isn't
I just
the bottom
traded Kelenic last week in our home league, right?
That's right, you did.
And I for pitching depth, right? And that's what you got to do sometimes. So it's just know your
and that's
format.
a league where you wouldn't have been keeping him unless
Correct.
he stayed under the
deep.
rookie threshold. So Jackson Cowher debuted Kansas City. It very much
his body did.
Very much like Daniel Lynch, it did not go well. So that is a second highly touted prospect debut that has not gone well. But this is going to happen, and everybody just hold on. Hold on, everybody. Don't go losing it. Jackson Cowher, who was crushing it in MILB, still is a K machine, and MLB changes things. But I think I'm hoping Kansas City gives them another start, which should come Sunday. And if and when that happens, Kelenic should be much better. He hopefully got all the, he needs to prove himself. And hopefully he's the type of guy who says, I can't believe I did that, out of body experience. I'm going to get back at it. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for my teammates, blah, blah, blah. And then he wants to go and get it. And I hope Casey gives him that opportunity. They gave Lynch 3 starts before they said that enough's enough. So let's hope that we see and get to talk about Cowher again next week and the turnaround. Alek Manoah had a good turnaround as well, Ty. 3 starts, ERA of 3.14 now, so things have settled for him. Exactly the medicine Toronto needed. My goodness, that rotation needed a bit of a stabilizer in it, and maybe he'll help with that.
He did love that he was jawing with Tim Anderson mid at bat last night. I mean, Tim Anderson won that at bat, but it was just fun. Like, I enjoy that, and I feel like Toronto, since like Batista's left, has gotten a little soft. Like, it's more of like they're the nice guys.
Right.
And I like seeing Manoah get a little mouthy, because that's, a winning team doesn't have to be arrogant, but mouthy is good. Like, confident in the moment. I like.
You're a pro athlete. Like,
yeah,
you can, I don't think it's a bad thing. We've had the conversation before. I don't think it's a bad thing to wear it on your sleeve, even if you don't have them. If you don't have your sleeves, you don't have your sleeves. But anyway, I think it's fun to enjoy playing the game. And it's not about the cameras seeing it or us seeing it. It's about those guys, right? Like, it's in their heads. They need to be gamers, and it's good to throw it back at each other. When Trevor Bauer speaks, I listen, but it's not because I think his information's amazing. It's because he says things that I agree with, that are like, yes, when a player hits a home run, they should celebrate. When I strike a guy out and it's a big moment, I should celebrate. I agree with that. It doesn't mean you get into like NFL touchdown celebrations. It just means that you are excited, you're emotional, and that's okay. You don't break down, in tears. Anyway, somebody else who could make me break down in tears if he takes off like some other highly touted out of nowhere dudes is Bobby Bradley, who is back in Cleveland. This is his second tour of duty. 19 was his first cup of coffee. Didn't go well, but he's 4 for 10 right now and had a pretty good Sunday. So we'll see how this rest of week goes for him. I'm hoping he can do things Jake Bauers could not do. And Bauers was DFA. They found a trade partner in Seattle. So it's interesting to see what Seattle's going to do with Jake Bauers. And Seattle has had a lot of injury troubles recently. They've got Shedlong just back. I don't know where they're going to play him, but sorry, Ty, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, like, for me, Bobby Bradley's fits into the old sell category. I think he's Joey Gallo, right? I think is what you're going to get there. So I would love to see if I can build some ROI out of the success right now.
Okay.
Because I don't know that it's sustainable for him. Like, he's going to hit home runs. Like, that's going to be there, but it's going to be empty after that. So
right.
I'm concerned that he might
OPS league, right? So an OPS league, he's going to help you more. In an OBP league, he's not a walk machine, so it's not going to happen there. And again, the average is going to be, we'll see exactly what it is, but
he has a home run for almost every 12 at bats in the minor leagues this season and 751 OPS. So I'm concerned, right? Like, I don't know that that's enough for me.
Okay.
Even in an OPS league, I'm trying to sell if I own Bobby Bradley right now.
Okay, there it is. The sell from Ty. Now, you mentioned Gallo, and there's still rumors kicking around, and we don't like to discuss rumors other than just to state if Joey Gallo became a Padre, that would be interesting. That would mean he should have a S-ton of RBIs down the stretch. That's about it.
I just don't know where he's going to play.
Right. He's going to hang out somewhere in the outfield, and I guess other Padres are going to get hurt, and that's why.
Like, can you play shortstop?
Well, they can't DH Tatis. But yeah, that's one of the things, right? It's just it would be interesting, like I said, but it's another scenario where maybe they like the makeup of, and I'm gonna have to find the player's name who signed out from Tampa Bay. He signed in the offseason and went to AAA, and he's up now with the club, and he's a mash or two. Thank you, Brian McGrady. And maybe they just want like the MLB version. Maybe they think, you know what, if he was better, a better contact hitter, we could get some huge things. Maybe that's, and it's a rumor, right? So who knows if this is just an agent saying something for the sake of it. And that's why, again, we don't like to get down that trail. Speaking of down the trail, another rehab assignment. Looks like George Springer is going to head out for the weekend and rehab. Let's hope that this is, a 7 to 10 day rehab tie. I'd like to see him through the mid part of June before they bother bringing him back up. Like, give him a day off.
But he's been running full tilt with the Jays, right? So I think he's close. I think he just needs some game action. I firmly believe he's going to be gone for the weekend, and we'll see him at the beginning of the week.
Okay, so for the series for week. Geez, what week's it going to be in? Will it be week 12 next week?
It will be.
The season.
Thanks to a friend of the show, Glenn, for stating that it was.
Yeah, that's right.
I enjoyed that conversation. Thank you, Glenn. But yeah, I think you're going to see him skip Boston this weekend and I shouldn't say that. You might see him Sunday or Monday, right? Like,
really? Okay.
It could be 2 games, and we might see him Monday in Boston, but wouldn't be surprised.
You never know, right?
Well, we're back in Buffalo on Tuesday. So if they're in wherever the team is, where are they? Trenton? I hear Trenton.
Buffalo?
The Jays, the Buffalo.
I didn't look to see where the Bisons were playing.
Yeah, but it's not far from Buffalo, so it would make sense that Tuesday against New York in Buffalo
makes
back.
Sense. Yeah. Okay. And a couple other guys that are back, Colin Moran and Phillip Evans, both back in Pittsburgh, as well as the Dingers' #1 prospect, Ke'Bryan Hayes. And Ke'Bryan Hayes is doing well. Happy to see him back in that lineup. And
except for stepping on first base. He didn't.
The home run. The home run.
Yeah, that's you can't do that, man. Like,
well, and who was there was a minor leaguer,
Bobby Witt.
Bobby Witt, thank you. And he didn't touch home.
No, he slid across it, and the umpire.
Yeah, that's true.
It was an show situation.
But if you look at what happened, if you look at that video, he clearly realized he had not touched it, and then did that weird leg thing as like a, could have stepped back. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's basic stuff. Touch the damn base, get what you earn. But anyway, the reason that I'm bringing up Morin and Evans is that this could actually help all of the Pittsburgh Pirates that are playing right now just a little bit. We know that a guy like Morin is potential trade bait, a guy like Evans possibly too. Evans started the year well and then played very poorly and eventually got hurt. And now hopefully him coming back is a good thing and he can start rolling again. Because we talked about him early in the year, how there were some pretty significant trade value being put behind him in Dynasty. Like I think it was a first round pick in one of our 30-team leagues that he went for. And it didn't seem like a terrible deal when you look at what's happening. The problem is that because he was on a first. So essentially you've got 6 years of Phillip Evans or a first round pick in a 30-team league where you have a universal draft. And that's where it gets to be really complex, right? Phillip Evans needs to be an MLBer for that deal to work out. Now he's already there. He just needs to be effective. And he wasn't prior to the injury. Hopefully is when he comes back. Hopefully Pittsburgh is a little bit better. Their pitching staff has been absolutely brutal, but we can talk about that as we go. And the last one is Patrick Wisdom. He's now a guy, right? He's a guy, 8 dingers. Remember when Matt Chapman came in hot? Remember when Rhys Hoskins came in hot? I think it was in 19. It was in 18 for them. That is Patrick Wisdom right now. And he played a little third base the other day. Maybe he's going to get multi-position eligible, doing this. This could be a good thing. Everywhere he's available, you should be finding a spot at least on your bench for him. Because if he's going to be multi-position eligible, all you need is one injury, and then he becomes useful to you. So agreed. Just think about it now. And I mean, I mentioned it 2 weeks ago, just as a shot in the dark. This is somebody that could help out because he's a bopper in the minors.
Keep in mind that spot was previously being filled by Matt Duffy, right? So I think the 9 home runs or whatever he has already is more than enough to supplant the 290 empty average we saw from Matt Duffy. So
absolutely,
I think that's a no brainer that he's going to be there. But we'll say this: so there's going to be opportunity potentially, depending on how St. Louis and Milwaukee navigate the next couple of weeks here. Chicago, even if they're in it, legitimately has to think about selling. Like they do not have the pitching to make a deep run. So like they really, really need to think about selling, period.
Well, and one of the worst things too is that with St. Louis not doing super amazing, it's almost as if they could work a deal out, which is just one of those like, Yankee Red Sox trade things, right? Things that don't happen, but sometimes do. If some pitching could find its way to Chicago, it might actually help Chicago. And then it would be a matter of, are they going against their plan or, all that kind of baseball stuff. But that's not for us to worry about. That's for us to say, let's just see what happens. That would be an
all-time GM move, though, if St. Louis sewered the Chicago organization by making them better for 60 days. That would be an all-time sewer. That would be great.
If you could do it with so it'd be like Waino, which I mean, that would be. Just think of the Cards fans who would be up in arms if you traded Wayne. Not be
okay with, I don't think Wayne.
I know.
I think he'd retire on the spot.
Well, yeah, feel like the Alonzo morning when he got traded to the Raptors.
We just stay in his hotel room and chip golf balls into solo cups.
Make videos. Yeah. So we'll quickly transition now into some of the minor league leaders. So Joe Adell, as we mentioned earlier, he's got 15 dingers, leading all of minor league baseball. At AAA, we've got Travis Dermott with Atlanta in the Atlanta organization. He's got just under an 1,100 OPS. Ragnall Ravello, who we've talked about before, 1263, also at AAA. Edward Olivares has the highest average at 370. Sorry, one of the highest averages at 372. Now he's up and down with KC, so he's an interesting guy that you might want to be getting in on right now. He might be the last guy on your roster. That he might be there, right? He might be worth it to be that last guy. Jamie Ritchie. We all know who he is, right? Right, Ty? He's that infamous catcher with Arizona who's got a 413 average. He's 28 years old, only 2 dingers for the year, but he's got, I think, 16 RBIs. So, he's had a few key at bats, obviously. But either way, it's just interesting that a catcher has a very high average for one. It's at AAA, and that's interesting. And it's with Arizona. So there's potential we could see him at some point.
He could play center field. Right? They like to throw their catchers in center
there you
field,
go.
So you never know.
And then maybe they'll be like, look, Varsho, you're gonna go back to AAA and you're gonna catch. What? What's happening? What is happening here? Tony Santillan 45 Ks.
The Catalina wine mixer.
Yeah, so he's anyway 45 Ks. AAA with Cincinnati, Cincinnati, if you will. Then we've got Glenn Otto with the Yankees at AA, 55 Ks, leading all of AA with that at 4.50 ERA, but a 109 WHIP. So he's another interesting Steven Gonzalez type who, you know, just consider, right? Consider Ethan Elliott. This is a good deep dive for everybody here. We got a couple deep dives. Ethan Elliott with San Diego. He's at high A, 2-1 record, a 2.02 ERA, and 35 2/3 innings, 52 Ks, and a decimal 8.1 WHIP. Now he was a 10th round pick in 19, and he's a 24-year-old, and I guarantee you he is not owned in your dynasty leagues.
Yeah.
Go and look into it. If you can just pick him up and stash him, there's nothing wrong with taking somebody right now who's like that. And his career minor league ERA, because of the 2020 lack, his numbers are really good across the board. High K guy. So if this turns into an RP, who knows? It's high A, right, Ty? And he's 24. He'll be in AA in no time.
So he's probably college arm, realistically, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
in
definitely.
this
Yeah,
league,
19.
My guess, because I don't know much about this guy other than the stat line you put in here.
Mhm.
My guess is this is a college closer with elite stuff that they're stretching out. That's
Okay.
what I would guess this guy is. Maybe even a position player that did some closing. So it could be a late evolving guy. 24 at low A or high, sorry, suggests college arm automatically. So especially with those
Yeah.
numbers, I can't imagine he's going to be at high much longer.
Well, drafted at 22. So that's so we know that for sure.
In the big ticket there is 52 Ks, 35 innings with a sub 1 ER or whip. Like that's a big deal. Like that's a very like giant flashing sign. Go find out more about this guy.
And if he is owned, now is a good time to look at the team that has him and see if there's any peripheral MLB piece that you might want on your team, and then engage in trade talks. But know that Ethan Elliott is your target, and just make sure he's in on that deal, because everybody hates prospect pitchers right now. And that's everybody but us, because we like winning our dynasty leagues and we like being highly competitive. So we are going to go and collect these guys. And a 24-year-old at high A is likely to move quick. He could easily finish the year at AAA, and it's San Diego. So you never know what's going to happen.
In the way their bullpen's going, he could be in the bullpen this year.
Right, yeah.
Like,
If they're trying to win a World Series, you never know, right?
Arms are just falling off in San Diego.
Well, and with all the injuries they've had, Pierce Johnson, who's a guy that I had said was kind of a dark horse late inning guy, has still only had 4 save holds for the season. And yes, he's been hurt as well, but it's just, I think he's pitched 16 times this year, and only 5 of them, I think he has a blown save or something to that, or lost, whatever it is, but only 5 or 6 opportunities. So Ethan Elliott, there you go, San Diego high A. Next one up is Cade Cavalli, first round pick in 20, I think he was last year, with Washington, low A, 56 Ks. So he's ready to move, right? He's dominating, and we like to see it. We talked about him a couple weeks ago, and here's another new name, another San Diegan, Carson Ragsdale, low A, 1-1 record, 3.72 ERA, 29 innings pitched, 54 Ks, and a 1.03 WHIP. He was the 4th round pick last year, college arm, 23-year-old. I don't think he's going to be owned either, because we found, especially when I did the first year player draft, average draft position, Ragsdale was not in the top 130. So this is an under the radar guy, and that could mean he's overachieving, that, which, you know, lessen your impact, lessen your interest. Yeah, so, absolutely.
Just a noteworthy thing, like Elliott's at high A, low A is still a lot of guys figuring things out. There's still a lot of swing changes. There's still a lot of things going on at low A. So there's a difference between those two guys. Subtle, but noteworthy. Like you throw the flag on him, he's on your watch list, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just, you know, everybody always says we need some names. We're looking for some dudes. So when you go looking and they just pop up because they're at the top of their league and you don't have to dive a whole lot deeper, it's a pretty good situation. And then you just have a look and you say, okay, you drafted late, right? 10th round pick and a 4th round pick last year. Those are guys that are off the radar in your dynasty leagues. And before other people catch up, which is usually mid-season, Ty, somebody had asked us before the show if we would talk a little bit about what you do if you're in a team, if you're in a 15 team league and you're clearly not in contention this year. At what point in the year in your dynasty do you go to sell? And I had said to them, well, okay, so Ty is saying June. I had said to him, I will wait until close to my deadline or into July. But what I will do is I will listen to offers, but I'm not going to go and say, here's my trade block. Here are all the dudes I'll trade, simply because you have no idea what's going to happen within your league. And your Jose Altuve, who has a certain value today, his value could go up immensely if the guy who has name your hotshot second baseman goes down. And then he needs that Altuve for the stretch run or something, of that ilk, starting pitcher wise or whatever. So you're saying it would be okay for somebody to go ahead and like post up the trade block, put the guys up and start the teardown this early in the season?
Well, I mean, look at the 30 teamer.
I'm saying a 15. I'm saying a 15.
I know, but look at what has happened though. You get the smart owners that usually generally are ahead of the curve in the buying window, and you end up with a scenario where they're probably going to have a couple longer term guys stashed because they're a smart owner. So I like to go get in contact with those guys before they start to sell those same pieces for lesser or people that aren't on my team. So, I think it's a scenario where you're always going to be better the more buyers you have at the table. And so that's why I like to look early. It doesn't mean I'm going to, like, same as what you said, doesn't mean I'm just going to clear the shelf for the sake of clearing the shelf, but I'm going to be very open to moving. And again, I talk about this a lot. I like to try to buy in scenarios where situations are going to change, right? So buying guys, and this isn't the best example because their farm system sucks, but like buying the next guys up in Colorado would be an example because they're going to clear out, right? Chicago, same kind of thing.
To your point, Ty, about Colorado, we know that there are issues within Colorado, but the general consensus is that you can give credit to Colorado prospects because they do have a great park. And anyone who's in Colorado that will tell you it should be very easy to hit at least 250 in Colorado. The park is so damn big. So when you look at that organization and you see like the Trejos and the other guys that have come in and gotten cups of coffee this year, and their OPS is like below 700 and their average is under 250, it's like, whoa, like those guys are either struggling or those guys are just not good. And Colorado's just bringing them up instead of, whoever they think might be like ready to take a position. They're just kind of doing the Baltimore plug and play, right? Okay, you come on up, you go ahead. And I mean, Tyler Nevin is another guy who's been promoted, who we've got to watch on, but he had more prospect hype and he was traded last year. What was the trade? The RP they sent Givens, Michael Givens.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, so there you go. That was for Woody. Woody was asking about sell times and stuff, and I said, well, we're going to talk about it tonight, so we'll make note to mention. So we've got injuries.
There is no wrong time though. Like there is no wrong
I
time.
agree.
But it probably comes down more to your negotiating rather than like your ability to talk about the timelines and discuss it with somebody else that has an understanding of what the hell you're saying, right? So match up with trade partners, that makes sense. So I just want to add that.
And very much like blind trade offers, I talked about, got a horrible trade offer in our home league today, publicly shaming my Pete Alonso. So this is 6 MLB keepers, 1 prospect, right? So my Pete Alonso for his Brendan Rodgers and Josh Bell. Brendan Rodgers and Josh Bell combined do not have the stat line of Pete Alonso right now. And even though I am a Nick Madrigal owner, which we will talk about shortly, but not yet, I do need to find a long-term replacement at second base or rest of season replacement at second base. Well, I'm not going to go ahead and take 2 guys who suck for one of my 6 keepers. That's just a silly offer. So if you can at least have a conversation with someone beforehand, hey, what are you thinking? You're bounced, right? Those trade offers, boom, bounce. They get the WTF and a reject on it in the comments. So, but anyway, so that was just one of those things where I like to have a conversation before trade offers happen, but also then you get dinks in your league like Ronnie, who you start talking to him a while ago about a guy like Patrick Wisdom, and all of a sudden it's as if as soon as you say the name, he's like, well, now he's more valuable to me, right? When you get those guys, then you just have to move on to the next one. So I've sent you a fair trade offer, Ronnie, in the 30-team Real Money Auction League. If you don't take it, I don't care. All right, Votto's back. Yeah,
you have been called out.
Roto Ronnie called out. I have my first base back. Ohtani is my DH. I don't even need Wisdom. All right, I don't need him.
All right. Hold him back. So we're gonna move on to the injury list here. So your boy KK in St. Louis, left-hand starting pitcher, down with what seems to be this was an interesting one to me. It said sore right back originally. the hell the right back is. Like
Well, it's
on
the other
back.
side of your left back. It's the opposite.
Yeah, but it's your back. It's not your front. It's your back. Let's not start subdividing the back into quadrants and crap. Like,
Third IL stint since he signed. So definitely some, this goes back to the Strasburg envision 20 Ks as a max for starters. Kim is absolutely on that list now. So
well, it's perfect because I have so many injured pitchers. He's just going to shuttle onto the
oh,
IL.
you just got him in. You poor guy. Yeah.
I'm devastated injury wise in our home league. Everyone's like, "Oh, your team sucks." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because I'm half dead, but it's okay. I will be there later. Don't you worry."
I am currently suffering the Kyle Lewis, and now added to that Nick Madrigal. So
Yeah.
I'm hurting where I don't want to. But the other guy, Ty, who's not on the list is Adbert Azole. Thank you, Azole. Who got hurt? I think it was last week. Pitched 3 innings and then came out. So he's also hurt. Lorenzo
was a
Kane,
nice bright spot for the Cubbies. Sorry.
Yeah, it was, and that goes back to the pitching.
Hurt what we were talking about earlier, right? Like in terms of their late season run, like they're trending towards sell, like they have to be,
and the need for them to add pitching if they do think that there's something there. But as we talked about, probably not worth it. Lorenzo Kane will be out until at least July. That's no good. Chris Archer could be back at some point in July. I mean, I know we don't care, but people started to get excited in redraft in the offseason. So there might be a way for the Chris Archer owner today to continue to hold. And as soon as he's rehabbing, try to make a deal, right? This is return on investment for me, Ty. This is 100% an ROI. If I can get it, it's like a Matt Moore, he got like this much hype in the offseason, just a little bit because people were like, well, he was in the KBO and he was pretty good. So I picked him up in a couple of leagues where he was cheap and it's been a disaster. So
this is like Dogecoin. Like it's just it can't. There's just no up to the Dogecoin at this point. So
there's one way that you get out, and that's a sucker, and that's all you need to find is the Chris Archer sucker, right? So if you have the Yanceys in your league, that's who you get. Kyle Garlick, talked a lot about him, but he's been okay. Sports hernia. I don't know exactly what the timetable is going to be on that. Weeks upon weeks.
Months.
So Sonny Gray, IL as well. Watch to get some official news on that. Carlos Carrasco had a setback and is no longer throwing off the slope that he was last week. This sucks. I mean, it'd be so nice if Carrasco could come back and pitch effectively. But as dynasty owners, as astute fantasy players, we knew this was not a good buy at any point in time. And it remains. So Evan Longoria out until at least mid-July. That one really sucks because it looked like Longoria was having a resurgence, but maybe that's what happens when you're on the down cycle from steroids. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe that's what happens. You get hurt. I don't know.
I mean, there's definitely something in the water in San Francisco. Like the 3 old guys that are just killing it this year. Like, come on.
Yeah. It's not the sourdough. It's not the sourdough. So Steven Strasburg,
just like no people walking around in San Francisco. Just less people. Like that could be it. I don't know.
Maybe. Steven Strasburg's rotation replacement, Austin Voth. I know. Don't laugh at me. All right, Ty. The stat line for Voth is pretty good this year. He's been out of the bullpen. However, he got hit in the face by flippin' Vince Velasquez, you POS, and now he's out. I'm hoping that he doesn't look like Kevin Pillar, and I'm hoping that he's back in 2 weeks and pitching in 2 weeks. But this sucks because this was a great opportunity for Voth to both revive me because I need him to be better, but also for dynasty owners who wanted a little return on investment. Austin Voth in a rotation can be a trade chip for you. I obviously want his production. I'm not going to trade him. I'm going to die with him. But for you who may have listened to me and think, Rob, what are you doing? Now could have been your chance. But anyway, let's see if he comes back and puts together a good start or two. And then the last guy. Yep.
On the nose thing, I just have a really quick thing. I told my wife about Pillar getting hit in the face, and she said, "Oh, his nose." That was her immediate reaction. was not for the safety of him, but was about his large nose and how it would be impacted by being hit by a baseball. It was very funny.
Well, poor Pillar.
It was in retrospect knowing Kevin Pillar was okay, so that then showed her the Batman mask, which made us laugh.
Right. Yes. Final injury note for us is Mitch Keller with Pittsburgh. My gosh, like talk about a guy that we wanted to be so much better than he has been. Let's hope the IL stint is not a long-term one. However, let's hope the rehab process is a slow one where maybe he does 3 or 4 starts down there and gets himself straight. Because this is supposed to be a high K guy, and he has been anything but. And let's hope that this isn't Pittsburgh not developing a guy who eventually gets traded and then becomes a guy. Because for us dynasty owners, we've already been waiting on Mitch Keller, right? We don't want him to be the next Tyler Glasnow, the next Garrett Cole, the next Joe Musgrove after he gets traded. We want him to start to do that in Pittsburgh. Before there's a trade, we want some of that now. So let's just hope. But anyway, that's the end of that. Now, Ty, before we go into the low value starting lineup part, we failed off the top to have a very brief discussion. You wanted the floor to discuss Josh Donaldson and Garrett Cole and substances on players.
Well,
so I feel like now's a good time.
Yeah, I think the substance thing is interesting. Like I want to talk specifically about Garrett Cole because I think as much as everybody's giving him crap for what was maybe the worst post-game interview of all time, the one thing I want to shine some light on, he basically admitted that he's using something without saying it, right? Like, so I want to throw a little kudos to him because that's a very difficult dance that he did. I mean, he executed it very poorly, but most elite guys would have said, absolutely not. I've never taken steroids in my life, right? And we have that as a recent track record. So this is very similar to that. And he ran into the fire a little bit. And for whatever reason, nobody's like, this guy just said he's guilty. Right.
Right.
No one is looking around right now because he basically admitted it. And
yeah.
so
Josh Donaldson said, you put this on your hand. Do you put this on your hand? Hey, look, man, players, the previous generation talk to our generation, and there are just some things that happen in baseball. That's exactly what, like, that's what happened. That's what he said.
Yeah.
They talked to us about where to do this, where to do that. And we've all started to see videos cropping up, Yu Darvish touching the inside of his mitt, all these dudes, right? Trevor Bauer, all the regression that's going to come, all these things. It like, I don't know, man. It's like the all steroid Olympics. What do people want to see? Do we want to see an athlete who is just better than us, who are sitting at home, not training, doing all these things? Do we want to see those guys? Or do we want to see roided up freaks destroying the game? Well, no, we don't want to see roided up freaks destroying the game. So where's the balance?
Even playing field. And the only way you have an even playing field is by disciplining properly. So listen, you get caught cheating. Like if you're caught cheating and it's not like a chemical imbalance, right? If it's not something that's like in coffee that you just accidentally took too much of, right? Like I can live with that being like a slap on the wrist. But like if you intentionally took a performance enhancing drug knowing that that's what it was, you're done. It's over. Your career's over. Like that is what has to happen. It has to happen the same for the whatever they're using on their hands. It just needs to be everywhere. Like it just needs to be a hard line.
So you would give a massive suspension if somebody's putting
not a suspension and like a complete expulsion forever, banned.
Whoa.
Because it's the only way you stop it. Like it's just realistic. Like it's not my preference. It's just the only way you actually do something about it.
Right. So the penalty has to be so severe it's not worth the risk to anyone who's already at the level. It would be the Jose Cansecos of the world who just can't break through. So they do something because that's the only way that they can create a competitive advantage.
And all the best players are actually the best players. And then anyone else is just, see ya. You're gone.
So before, like, I don't want to overly define all of this, but so is it okay for a hitter to put pine tar on so he can hold his bat better?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm okay with that because it's not.
So what's the difference between him holding the bat better that hits the ball and the pitcher holding the ball better?
Because you're not making contact with the implement. Because so like look at pine tar on the bats, the George Brett incident. The reason you can't put pine tar in the barrel is because it increases the spin, therefore the carry, right? So that it would be the pitching equivalent of hitting, not on your hands. So like I don't know if the pitcher ever wanted to use his glove and put tar under the glove for the purpose of keeping his glove on for whatever reason.
That would be
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's why I was just looking for that exact. Like because I like the idea of having the best players be the best players without being, beefed up and all these other things. But I was listening, I think, to a lot of the argument, or reading, I should say, a lot of the argument about how players hitters have all of these other advantages that they get, and all that they're trying to do is strip away from pitchers. And, the early season success rate of, pitchers with no hitters and things like that, kind of clawing back to it. And I like the argument. I don't remember who had said it, so I apologize for not being able to give the credit, but it was essentially, let the pitchers put whatever on their hands they want to, but they're now holding that juice ball. And then let's see what happens, let's have that where the ball's going to pop if they do. But my thought was, as funny as that is, that's just going to go to more 3 true outcome. And I want to go back to small ball. I want to go back to bunts that matter. Because I'm a fantasy guy, I want stolen bases. I want tight games. I don't need 13-3 and then 4-0. I want 4-4, 6-4, whatever game, right?
I do not want a world where it's possible for Mike Moustakas to play second base.
Yeah.
That's the simplest way I can say it. Right. And he's in there because he provides offensive upside instead of a well-rounded game. And that's your point. So yeah, that's where I want to leave it. But I do think the only solution is severe penalties. I think it has to be that way.
Okay, I'm with you. So now we're going to switch it up to low value starting lineups for your dynasty league. So these are players with various values, different points in their careers, as you will see as we go through all this. Ty, do you want to go by the starting lineup, which is kind of how I originally said it, and we'll go through this starting lineup? Okay.
Yeah, I'll read the first one here, Robbie, and it's starting the catcher position. Eric Haas, who got doubled up on, I think it was an Isaac Paredes potential walk-off home run last night. Haniger brought it back and then threw him out at first. I don't know what the heck you were doing, Mr. Hase. Hase. I don't know how to say that one.
I'm just saying Eric Haas.
Yeah.
Haas.
A. Mr. A. And so, what are you doing? But anyway, providing mediocre value at the catcher position, which is basically crappy value everywhere else. Teammate Jonathan Scope has been on fire.
Oh my God, is he ever?
I think I saw, a comment on Twitter today. I forget who posted it, but it was basically 8 home runs this month at 300. So, I mean, we see this from Scope every single year. He goes on a little bit of a run. So not overly surprising. Jonathan India, hot start, cooled off, got hurt, seems to be back into where he needs to be right now in Cincinnati. Long-term play with India, which is a little bit different than a lot of the guys on this list. So like that, Yandy Diaz hit a home run last week. So with all those lat pull downs that he does, good for him.
And the thing with Yandy Diaz and why he's on the list here too, Ty, is the fact that he's been a perfectly fine deep league, bench kind of filler guy on your daily teams. But if he's going to start to bring, one dinger's not a lot, right? But if he's going to start to bring around some more power, if he's going to start to bring up his OPS, he can become even more valuable. And this is another guy who's suffering from Tampa Bay not getting to play all the time. So he's one of those guys he's got a really low value. He had a better value a year ago. He had an even higher value 2 years ago, but he hasn't become a terrible baseball player. He's just lost the power. So now might be a decent time to look into him.
The only thing I will say, I'm on the opposite side of the power side here for Diaz. I'm not buying Diaz for a power slot. I just won't. I can't. I feel like I'm going to get burnt.
Well, let me tell you.
Him on average, though.
Let me tell you then, Ty, in 194 at bats this year, he has a suboptimal 711 OPS, but the average is 263. The last month, however, he's been a 280 hitter with a 778 OPS, and that's in, decent playing time, 82 at bats. So in a month, the guy should get around 100 at bats. So he's a little bit below that, but overall for the year at 194 at bats, he's getting time. He just hasn't been hitting, it's loft related, but he's also not striking out a ton. He's not he's got more walks than Ks. This is why I like him. Okay. He's got more walks than Ks. And I think he's just changing the game of baseball, and we should all just, Yandy Diaz for us all. That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
Well, he's got no value, but he's a lot better than people think.
I mean, the amount of Yandy Diaz love you just poured out explains the shirt you're wearing. Honestly, because he probably busted through those sleeves and then you took it from him.
Actually, this is from a fishing lodge that I worked at a long time ago. Yeah. Yeah,
It,
fun
it
story.
makes a lot of sense. But yeah, moving on, Brandon Crawford, another guy, bounce back year. We touched on this earlier with San Francisco. Brandon Crawford's a good baseball player, right? He's just getting old. He made a swing change this offseason and it's paying dividends. So that's what we know. We know Brandon Crawford's a good baseball player. He's been shortstop 12 through 15 for 15 years now, or whatever it has been, 10 years.
Yeah,
Nothing
steady
really
Eddie
overly
type.
surprising. I mean, he's the automatic fill in a shallow league if your starting shortstop gets hurt. Like if he's on the waiver wire, pick him up. Done. Moving on.
Yeah.
Jake Fraley has been very reasonable. There's nobody playing the outfield in Seattle these days.
That's exactly it.
So Jake Fraley is a starter, and that's an important reason why he's on this list. He's going to give you kind of 5 category, very mediocre return. That's what you're looking for from Jake Fraley. On the pitching side, we've got Robbie Ray. Robbie's got a finger up, so you go.
Just really quickly on Jake Fraley. It's simply the matter that like Lewis is gone, and Kelnick is down. Opportunity is abound now for Jake Fraley to get every day at bats. And it doesn't mean that he's going to, like you just said, Ty, it doesn't mean that he's going to light the world on fire. It's opportunity. And 4% ownership in Yahoo. I think when I looked on Fantrax, it was under 25. And when I looked on CBS, it was somewhere around 14. So
great point target, right?
Yeah, he's not owned. He's going to get, hopefully he's going to get some hits. Like, hopefully he's going to have not an empty average. But I mean, even his last week is beautiful looking at 20 at bats. 6 runs, 2 dingers, 9 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. That's huge, but don't expect 3 stolen bases every week. But 4 walks to 5 Ks. So it's great. It's great to see this start. However, anybody who's owned Jake Fraley for a while knows he's never had value before. You're pretty sure he's not going to have value still. So this might be where somebody else wants to do that return on investment. And maybe you can give up somebody else off your roster, take a chance, especially in a 5 outfielder league. I'm sure you could find room for Jake Fraley.
Yeah, definitely. On the pitching side, we've talked about Robbie Ray a lot. I don't think we need to go in too much depth here, but for whatever reason, he's still extremely undervalued in pretty much every format by pretty much everybody, which is bad because what did he strike out the other night? 13?
13 and they don't like him they didn't like him in Dunedin, Ty. They didn't like him going to Buffalo. And when he's a free agent this offseason, his value is going to go down again. So you don't have to buy right away, but everything that's happening is going against the results. So he's pitching better. Like he's really honed in, obviously. 13K game. Yes. It's not a situation where there's a ton of walks like a J Happ, right? We reference Happ a lot because we got to watch a lot of Happ and we got to watch him develop at different times. Well, Robbie Ray is on the right side, the good J Happ. And I think it's important to think about that. I traded Robbie Ray earlier this season thinking, okay, he had a couple good starts. Boom, I'm going to trade him away, right? To the same thing with Matt Harvey. I was right about Harvey, but Robbie Ray is just like honed it in.
Well,
so
and
think about it long term.
And here's a good way to think about it. Like I would put Robbie Ray ahead of Carlos Rodon. And that's just something that I think a lot of people aren't wrapping their head around right now. Like Carlos Rodon's been phenomenal, right? And I think he will continue to be phenomenal, but I think you will get more consistency out of Robbie Ray throughout the end of this season as Rodon hits some inning limits as the season kind of starts to push what he's been through the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then the last guy, Ty, that you had for the first team is Wainwright with St. Louis, just pitching well. And again, because every year is his last year, his value is low. But if you are in a position where you can take a chance on him now, you can. And we've seen in a couple of astute owners where you have rules within your league where you are on the hook for the contract until the player retires. They will take someone who's old, like an Adam Wainwright. We saw Tanaka go in like a real money auction league in the offseason, and they just give the guy a 5-year contract. So you're on the hook. He's on your roster until he retires. So you could get Adam Wainwright, now it's in season, obviously, that there's parameters that are not what we're discussing, but he's one of those types of guys who's older, who has value until he's no longer playing. Right? He's not going to come back next year and have a 6 ERA and start 30 times. That's not going to happen for him. But Wainwright is somebody who could certainly help your team down the stretch. And if he retires, but it also limits your investment into him. You're not going to have to give up something crazy to get Adam Wainwright. And if you're being asked for that, you just walk away. You can find somebody better. So the second tier to this, at catcher, we've got a younger guy, Tyler Stevenson in Cincinnati. The reason why he would be behind Haas is that Haas looks like he could just have a job, and Tyler Stevenson's going to struggle. Tucker Barnhart's there. Joey Votto's now back at first base. So there could be some playing time concerns as the season goes on, but he still looks to be a professional baseball player with Cincinnati, so they will find at bats for him. Patrick Wisdom, we've talked about him a lot, just looks like he's going to be able to get playing time. And the investment's not going to be too bad. If someone's asking you for something significant, prospect return is significant, no, you don't do the deal, right? But this could be a situation where a guy walks into a job that he's got for years to come. Freddie Galvis. Freddie Galvis is a second base shortstop option, is just getting it done in Baltimore. He's probably going to get it done wherever he goes next year. Not going to win you the league, but certainly going to keep you in the hunt. If you're in a deeper league, he's an even more important piece because he's an everyday player. Josh Fuentes in Colorado is the exact same thing. Doesn't matter at home or on the road. Fuentes is fine. He's not crushing it, but he's perfectly fine. He's not a Colorado mirage. Willie Castro with Detroit at shortstop. Depending on your league, he might be third base eligible as well. Starting to get it done, hitting for a bit of average. Keep watching him. Billy McKinney with the Mets, formerly with Milwaukee. He's kicked around with Toronto for a couple years too. Ty talked about the fact that he hits the ball hard. He just hits it at people. Well, now with the Mets, he's going to have lots of time and opportunity to carve himself out a job. And the investment on him will probably just be your waiver wire. I own him, I think, in 2 30-team leagues. And like other than 30-team leagues.
In one league.
Did you? Okay. So maybe I had him in 3.
The Randall Grichuk trade.
So TDL. Okay. Yes. So maybe I had him in, geez, I must have had him in 3 leagues. What was wrong with me? I was listening to you. Anyway, so he's got an opportunity now, and he had a good week last week. So hopefully he can keep it up. Nick Pivetta with Boston, he's turned it around, right? He's an MLB pitcher yet again, very much like Robbie Ray, not as dominant with the Ks and things, but just somebody who you can put in there. And then Brad Keller, I did a little bit more work on Keller. Obviously I would. Kansas City. That's my pitching organization here. So 3 poor starts this year. And if you don't count those in points formats where he had 3 starts that were under 10 points, his point per game average is north of 14. And that's not great, but that's perfectly fine. Like he's not hurting you. The Ks are okay. The Ks are not okay. The Ks are down for him for the year, but he's starting to turn it around a little bit. And I like the idea of Brad Keller just sticking around in Kansas City as the team starts to improve. And that's where wins are going to pick up. So that's the second core. Ty, do it up, man.
This third team's interesting. And there's some upside. There's some long-term play in this team, which I don't know that there is as much of outside of maybe Jonathan India that we've talked about so far. So catcher position, it's Mike Zunino. We've seen crazy pop out of him this year. Still cheap, still serviceable, but again, very similar to what we talked about with Bobby Bradley earlier, just empty on the counting stats outside of the power numbers. First base Ryan Mountcastle was a buy for me everywhere early this season. Trying to get people to understand how good Ryan Mountcastle is going to be. He's been a top 100 player in our favorite format 8x8 over the last 100 or 30 days. Sorry. This is a guy that we ranked as a top 5 prospect coming into this season based on 5-year return, right? Not Hall of Fame career, just off of the next 5 years. We see him as a top 5 prospect. I still feel that way, Robbie, even after a slow start. Lots of season left. We're probably going to see 30 home runs out of Ryan Mountcastle this year. It's going to be close. Luis Urias is a guy that seems to be like way slower than I expected, figuring out how to hit at the major league level. It is slowly getting there. It's a very slow momentum, and there's some power behind it, right? Which is a little surprising. We saw some of this in the minors in San Diego, but we haven't seen much of it since he's landed in Milwaukee. So Luis Urias definitely a guy that can bounce back here. I like where it's going. It's a buy and hold for me. Right.
This is a situation for me, Ty, where I'm looking at Urias and thinking this is a bench bat, and let's see if he can keep it rolling, because Milwaukee is doing that weird thing. And we talked about it last week, I think. They're winning games. Well, how are they winning games? One guy's having a good day. And then the next time, they're winning, one guy's having a good day or a big moment or something like that. And Urias is part of that party. And if he's going to be part of that party, and if he's going to be part of that party and Keston Hiura is getting the boot, well, there you go. And it's not that they're taking each other's playing time or like it's one or the other, but they're part of that 26-man fight for playing time. And if they're going to send Hiura down, then Urias has his time to shine.
Well, let me just read you this really quick. Last 30 days, 13 runs, 4 dingers, 10 RBIs, a stolen base, 10 walks, which I know you like, only 17 Ks, in 78 at bats, so not bad, and a 790 OPS, right? So for a guy that's contact
That's a
first,
turnaround right there.
we're seeing progression. The last 2 weeks, even better, 843 OPS. So we're seeing the things that we need to see from Luis Urias, and this could end up being. I know everybody says, "Well, Trent Grisham, da 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 da." This was a bad trade. I'm not so sure it was. Right, I'm not ready to make that call.
In the last 2 weeks, Ty, what was his K to walk? Just curious if you brought it back closer to even.
Yep. Let me just pull back up. So last 2 weeks, 42 at bats, 9 strikeouts. So still under 25%.
There you go.
Closer to 20. That's where we want to see it.
Yeah, definitely. And then you have, or sorry, not you, but you have the injured
Brad
man.
Miller. Yeah, Brad Miller at third base here is a guy that we talked about. Like Brad Miller has a great week or two every single season. That's just what he does. He comes out and he absolutely rakes. Everybody gets excited. Everyone adds him. Don't give up on Brad Miller just yet. But for me, the reason I think there's some value here is I'm not so sure that we will see Alec Baum in the major leagues for this entire season. Like Alec Baum is struggling. And
guy can't hit a fastball.
Well, I think it might be interesting. I think that we might see a move to either left field or first base. I think left field because he has the arm, but he's a subpar third baseman overall, right? So I think if you send him down to learn the other position, that's the excuse. But I think the reality is like he's just not good at baseball right now. So Brad Miller is going to be the guy that fills that void for the time being. And then Ha-Seong Kim at shortstop in San Diego, slowly getting there. I will stick this to the end of the earth here, Robbie. Ha-Seong Kim is going to be a great low ball hitter. That I told you was going to be, but I have seen him get exposed with some pitches up in the zone. So, but from a value perspective, he absolutely still has that because, you know, people are now he's a backup, right? Now you can go and acquire him as a backup. And so the upside is still there. He's only hitting 208, but you know what? Like the reality is he's either going to figure it out and win a position in San Diego, or San Diego's going to try to find a way to trade him to somebody that wants to see if he can become an everyday major league hitter, right? And that's just the reality.
It's the contract because it's whatever it is, 5-year, 25 million or something like that. That's going to be the potential holdup for that. But when you try to find the silver lining with Ha-Seong Kim, it's not there for the season 208 average. Like I'm just saying average because it's consistent with everything else. The last month been 222. The last 2 weeks, 200. Last week, 375, right? In 8 at bats though, right? That's a bench player who's got 3 hits. Like it's not big, but the stolen bases for the year, he's got 5. Strikeout to walk ratio is not good, about 4-1. So nothing is great from him. 15 RBIs, 15 runs, 18 RBIs, 3 dingers. None of it is great, but at the same time, he's adjusting. Ty talked about this before. It's going to be a long, slow road for Kim to be able to be that guy. It wasn't like he was going to walk in and just mash. So I was on the upside of it, hoping he was going to do that. But I have been able to adjust my mind and say, you know what, this is the long play. It's a long play. No one that drafted him in the top 5 of whatever league is going to be willing to give him up for nothing. But if he continues to not get at bats, if he continues to not be excellent, the value is just going to go down a little bit to the point where you can buy in if you're going to be able to keep him. If that contract in your league or whatever is fair.
Let me just read you a couple quick stats, Robbie. Quadrant of the strike zone 9 quadrants or sections. I guess it's not a quadrant, but
yes, I remember this. MLB 2K11. There's 9 spots.
So his heat map of hitting, batting average 0 up and in, 154 up in the middle, 222 up and away. So expected batting average. So that's adjusted for defense, etc. Right? 150 inside, 208 in the middle, 197. So Mendoza line up in the zone. Right. So that is for sure going to be the thing that he needs to adjust. So that's if you're looking to buy him, you're looking for changes in those 3 numbers in those 3 locations. Because if not, he's going to get blown away by fastballs.
Right. So that's where his major adjustment is. Now, the last 2 guys that we've got for outfield options here, Ty, one Miles Straw, who I know we haven't said the nicest things about with Houston. The other is Tyler Naquin with Cincinnati. So I think, Ty, it's safe to say Tyler Naquin is just going to be an everyday MLB player moving forward. This could be rest of season into next year, and he would have to really have a downturn. But I'm sure he wants to stay in Cincinnati since this is where he's found his most recent success. And then with Miles Straw, it's a case of there was really high expectation. He has not delivered on that. He's batting further back in their lineup, I think, as well in Houston. And maybe now is a good time to get someone like Straw to look for the rest of season rebound. What are your thoughts? And sorry, I mean rest of season and beyond, but I'm stating that he can start to improve over the rest of the season. So what are your thoughts on those two dudes?
I would have sold on Naquin by now just because he had such a good start. So
Yep.
For Naquin, it's too late to be involved with Naquin in a buying or selling mentality for me. Miles Straw
Not so
was
you
never
just
in
don't
on.
think he's a regular MLB player that's got some pop now, like an
I do. I just
850
don't.
plus OPS?
I do. I just don't think he's going to get the leg that he should get. I think he's going to get the short end of the
Okay.
stick, same way he did in Cleveland. I think it's starting to happen, and will continue to happen with Votto back in Cincinnati. I just think the at bats are going to become limited.
Okay. So on the Straw side here, I'll just tell you what's up with Straw. So last year in only 53 at bats, the guy had 6 stolen bases. This year in almost 4 times as many. Oh, sorry. Did I say 53 at bats? I meant 82. This year in 196, he's got 7 stolen bases. That was supposed to be the whole thing, right? Everybody who is banking on stolen base guys has been disappointed by stolen base guys. But Straw's got a 245 average over the last month. It's been 286, which is fine. But he's been surging the last month. But I think it's just hidden beneath the fact that like the OPS isn't great. He had a really crappy start, and a lot of things aren't going as well, aren't going his way, and he's got no power. So I feel like if you want to find that possible guy that could have a decent average, should be able to steal your bases, and does not have a high value, Miles Straw could fill that gap now that everyone's been disappointed by the fact that he's not going to steal 50 bags.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
again, like we talked about Jose Siri being a potential guy to come up and take that job away, but it's more likely that Straw will continue to play. And, you know, we'll just have to deal with the fact that he's got no power, right? For the owners that have him or want him.
Yeah, I think defense will keep him in the lineup. It doesn't mean I want to buy him. You know, I just think he's very empty. Like, and if he's not stealing me 30 bases, I'm not paying attention.
Okay.
So into the pitching side in this last group on the list, this is this hurts me. I'm going to leave you the last one, but Austin Gomber in Colorado has been very mediocre. But you know, I don't
He's
know.
a Colorado starting pitcher.
Yeah,
It's a
I don't know if he's
Colorado
worth $50
starting
million or not, but you know, he definitely
He's
has-
worth $50 million.
I can't sign off on that statement.
I would
can't.
trade Nolan Arenado today to get Austin Gomber and that amazing 3.95 ERA over 68 innings, 71 Ks, 5-5 record, or let's just say 5 wins. Let's just be positive. He's got 5 wins. He's got 7 quality starts. He is, like, joking aside about the Arenado trade, he's a damn good pitcher for Colorado.
Yep, absolutely.
Like,
yeah,
look
I'm
at the
not trying to hate on
situation, right?
Gomber. I'm hating on that trade, but you know,
Yes.
Gomber has done what he's supposed to do. He is even with 500, which with Colorado right now, that's impressive. So that's all you need to say. So yeah, the last guy here though, Robbie. I mean,
I'll do it. I'll take care of him. But before, I just want to put a little cherry on top of Gomber and say that as a guy who frequently targets Colorado pitchers and is successful in Dynasty, I'm telling you, when you get the Kyle Freelands, when you get the German Marquez, when you get these guys, you have to understand they are like John Gray. You have to understand there are pitchers you select when they start, even if it's weekly. So you eat it a little bit, but their value is always so much lower than anyone else with a similar stat line when you pick and choose starts. So you can get Austin Gomber for so much less value-wise than you could Robbie Ray right now.
Yeah.
Like that's just like of all the pitchers here. So we've got 6 guys. I'm about to say the last one who probably has the lowest value of all of them. But of the other guys, Robbie Ray has the highest value. Austin Gomber might have the second lowest value just because of Colorado, because people are going to look and they're like, yeah, like it's okay, but it's still Colorado pitcher, right? Every year, he's got to start in Colorado 15 plus times. There's always going to be that knock against him. But you as a smart dynasty owner have to look at that and say, well, okay, you know, if so far this year, he's still carved 7 quality starts out, that's a stat in my league. That's important to me, or that's X number of points in my points league. And he still gets more than a K per inning that's important to me. Like that's 2 points. That's whatever it is to you. Those are the important things. Just like the next guy, Ty, the last guy here, Patrick Sandoval. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Los Angeles Angel in 27 and a third innings this year. He has 27 strikeouts, a 3.62 ERA, 1 quality start, as well as a save hold. Thank you very much. 0-2 record, but it does look like
the way you said that reminded me of the Bits and Bites commercial. So have you ever seen that? It's like you got 2 spiced rings, 1 but your mouth never knows till it's all over.
That's very much like me in Dynasty. My opponents don't know that I've won until it's all over. Like, how the hell did he Bits and Bites this team together? That's a good. I like that. So yeah, Patrick Sandoval is the guy that everybody loves to hate. As soon as he starts, people are like, whoa, well, maybe he's got some value, right? And then he puts up his big, I think it was 10 Ks that he had on Sunday, puts up his big performance. Everybody gets all excited for it. But I've been telling you for a long time, you just got to wait. It's just like Jose Suarez. You've got to let these guys do their thing. And that's what it is with Sandoval. If you are looking for depth, Sandoval is a guy. Now that he's starting, obviously the price went up. You have to be reasonable with the redraft mind frame that, okay, he's starting now, he's going to be worth more. But that doesn't mean you can't still acquire him for some type of peripheral. I don't have a guy off the top of my head, but some type of peripheral prospect. I will always take a guy like Sandoval who's on the cusp, who's got the opportunity over somebody. Pete, sure. Whoops. Pete Solomon is a guy. Well, he's been up at least, though, Ty. But yes, I would take Sandoval in that scenario. There are a lot of guys on this list. Like, I really like Brad Keller. I think of the 6 pitchers, Robbie Ray, Nick Pivetta, Gomber, Wainwright, Brad Keller, and Patrick Sandoval. I think my order would be Robbie Ray, Brad Keller, Gomber, Sandoval, Pivetta, Wainwright. That's where I am on that. Do you have a quick order you can give just so people get an idea here?
I would go like short term. What's the parameters?
Well, this is like you're the dynasty owner. You're the dynasty owner, and it's keep forever. Like who do you want?
It's Robbie Ray, Brad Keller, Austin Gomber,
Pivetta, Sandoval, or Wainwright. Wainwright's for you,
Pivetta, okay. And then Sandoval. I can't get on board with this,
which is fine. He's got to prove it. He's got to be able to prove it more. And when I did a bunch of my checking to see where guys were throwing pitches after the 19 season and started to look at hitters who couldn't hit a pitch, and that's when those kind of things that work that can be done in the offseason can let me trust in a guy a little bit more than others. And that's fine.
Doesn't pass the eye test for me. It's that simple.
Are you kidding? He's gorgeous. I mean, good at baseball.
Yeah. He's got that LA Instagram profile just on peak. So, but this is a good list, though, Robbie, and I think a lot of people could benefit from this. And this is how Robbie wins championships. He does this to people all the time by getting value out of guys that everyone has given up on. So do not be naive about what we just talked about anywhere on this list, because these are the guys that are there when Corey Seager's hurt, or Fernando Tatis needs to be filled in, or God forbid, every pitcher on your roster like mine is injured. Right?
And if your outfield has collapsed, as mine has in 2 leagues, a guy who now, unfortunately, has also joined them in being injured, who would have been on this list, is a guy like Darren Ruff, who nobody gave 2 craps about in the offseason. But Darren Ruff, I think, was KBO last year, hitting for power, and that's what he does. It's an 800 OPS, and it's dingers. So you're punting on the average. If you're in an average league, take that into consideration. But yeah, so that's it for me, Ty, on this one. But I've got a joke for you. Are you ready?
I love jokes.
Do you want to hear a pizza joke?
No.
Never mind. It's too cheesy.
Yeah, that's a great spot to leave it, because everyone that is listening to the audio has already left. But thank you again for listening to us. Make sure you hit us up at DingersPod. Get the questions. Join us for the live streams here across all platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and those of you that are on Twitch. Thank you for listening. But get in there, ask us questions live on the show. We're happy to answer them. If you have questions about our sunglasses, we'll
our shirts, whatever, right?
Whatever it is. If you want to attack our character, go for it. We will fire back. You just need to know that. But until next time, it's been Tyler and Rob on Dingers.